It's Lisa, and I'm down here in the Inner Harbour, and it's the 23rd of October, 2021. So if people are coming here to do a site analysis for assignment 7, this is actually a pretty good location because there's usually lots of stuff going on. So for the people who are new in town, I'll just go over some stuff that you might notice if you're down in this area. So you can actually access this whole area here on a public footpath. And a lot of cities, you can't always get down to the waterfront because it's privately owned. But when I was living in James Bay, my former landlady told me that they actually worked pretty hard on trying to make sure that there'd be public access all the way around here. And in fact, you can even walk around James Bay to Beacon Hill Park on the other side there because there's a public path that goes the entire route. You have to look for it sometimes, but it's there. Anyway, so that's the hotel there. There's the legislature and this steamship terminal. It's now the Robert Bateman Museum. Used to be a wax museum. And one of those hotels over there is in fact a building that used to be owned by an elderly woman who apparently left her money to her pet parrot named Louie. So interesting stories in the area here. This area's been settled by Europeans for a fairly long time, at least in terms of British Columbia history. That area there is the original fort. The area around Bastion Square now, that was the original trading post that was set up when the Europeans first came to this area. And the Empress Hotel's back there. A lot of the places that you're looking at here are actually filled in. Used to be mud flats, but now they're built up. So there's areas where boats can dock here. You can see some tugboats over here. My dad used to work on a very similar one, but in Vancouver, back just before World War II. And he was hired as a deckhand when he was still in high school. He said it was a really awful job because the strait could get really choppy, and also their major job was collecting barges of fish refuse from the canneries. So in the summer it really stank terribly. Anyway, I remember that mural there being painted back in the 90s. There was a guy who was going around the world. He wanted to do, I think it was 100 murals of orcas. So this was the one that he did for our town. And it's funny to see how faded it is now because it shows how long ago that was. That's the Northern Junk building, the back that we're looking at here. And it's one of the older buildings in this area. And it's one of the few that hasn't been gentrified yet. That's Johnson Street there. And you can see Market Square, that development over there, and Swan's Brewery. A lot of the land here was owned by a guy named Michael Williams, who was an early heritage advocate. Back in the 70s and 80s, these old buildings weren't really viewed with much esteem because they were seen as being old-fashioned and they were kind of run down. But now they're these top-notch heritage properties. So Williams had a lot of vision to do that. In fact, he actually ended up willing Swans and a lot of the other stuff that he owned to UVic. So the school now owns a brewery, which is a pretty funny concept. We're right here in this area that used to be the old Blue Bridge. The concrete here, that's what the bridge used to rest on. They built a new bridge, and so they eventually dismantled the old one and took it away. Yeah, it used to be the old bridge here, and there was a pedestrian footpath that kind of went over where we are now. But there's a much better one here on the side of the new bridge, and there's a bike path as well. So it's really been upgraded. Anyway, so they built this little plaza here. There's a nice little viewpoint and a meeting place, and it's a good place to sit. The other thing is this area here used to be the Songhees village. So the local First Nations actually had this community that was here, and they were displaced. I mean, this was right now it's pretty highly priced real estate, this whole area here, and they don't have it anymore. So there's definitely a story there as to what happened with colonialism, because if they'd been allowed to keep it, they would probably be doing pretty well because they'd have this real estate that they could rent out, or they could sell for developments or keep here and live on. And so yeah, that's something to really think about because it doesn't really get talked about a lot as to what happened to the Songhees village. All right, and there's one of the Harbour ferries, little water taxis. Here's another one coming along here. So this area is pretty well used, and you can usually see some activity around here. I saw a harbor seal and a great blue heron just while I was waiting here for people to show up for the class stuff. All right.